Hi everyone, my name is Pierre. Today I will give you a small shop tour because I was asked by Practical Machinist a couple weeks ago if I can do that. And I said yes, even though I'm not an English speaking person, I'm in France, so it's pretty difficult for me to talk in English, but I will give it a shot and everybody knows the machinist and machining language, so it should be easy to understand. So thanks Practical Machinist to give me this chance. Before we start this walk around, let's talk about myself for a sec. I'm a 25 years old machinist, I'm a professional machinist. I work in several companies now, and right now I'm working on a very small machine shop that do repairs, a little bit of R&D and prototyping, one-offs, and a little bit of die making. So it's a very small shop, but I learn a lot from this place and these guys. So I try to apply that in my home shop with my personal project, and I'm in the machining trade since I've got 13 years old. Around this period of time, it was my granddad that taught me machining. He taught me how to run a lathe, how to drill a hole, to grind your own tools, and making parts and different assembly that works together. And I learned a lot from him, and he always come back here and we talk about the trade for hours. So anyway, I will give you a general view of the shop, and we probably look a little bit closer of my machine. I'm very small shop, it's a home shop, and what I can say. Anyway, let's dive in. First of all, this is the general view of my machine shop. It's pretty small, only 3.5 meters in width, so pretty small. As you can see, this is my main workbench, my main two machines, with my milling machine, my lathe. This is my first lathe, but we probably go a little bit closer after that. The tool and cutter grinder and a small Chinese drill press, and all the mess that goes with it. This is not a clean shop or a well-organized shop. I work on that. I try to work on that every time I come here, but it's pretty hard because I don't have a lot of space, and I try my best to keep things organized, but as you can see, there are things everywhere. Like I said in the intro, I'm from France. My workshop is situated in the eastern part of France, so where the winter are cold and the summer are pretty hot. And so my workshop is a little bit insulated on the roof. So in the winter here, it doesn't get under 7 degrees C, and doesn't get much upper 30 degrees C. So it's pretty, for a non-heated shop and just basic insulation, this is quite good for me. This is a closer view of my main work area, with the milling machine, the boxes, the lathe, and the workbench with the nice forging vise. Of course, we have the entrance door in front of us. Like I said before, this is a very small shop. I started to have my own machine back in 2014, where I bought my the first lathe, and from now I started to grow up with a bigger machine, with this Ramo lathe and this Chaublin milling machine. And we take a closer look of that and some of the equipment, but it's again a general view of that. And I would like to upgrade my shop with CNC machining, because it's the thing now. And if you want to to live from your home shop, you need to have some kind of production equipment. So you need to invest in one of those. So right now, I'm just manual machining, but this is the nice thing about this trade is you can improve your shop capabilities with a lot of different machine and possibilities. So that's why I'm stick with this trade. One thing I forget to mention is I do videos on YouTube in French. So I've got a small YouTube channel, and I put a post on Instagram in English. So maybe some of you know me from Instagram or YouTube. So thanks to you if you know me. Back in 2014, this is the first lathe I've bought. It's a small MCO lathe, benchtop lathe, that can swing 200 millimeters by 400 millimeters between centers. I believe I can remember it correctly now. But it has a very nice, generous work area, and you know it's a nice machine, not too small to start with. Of course, it's a home shop, so I made a lot of special tooling for my machine and for upgraded my equipment. And because things are expensive, it's nice to be able to make your own stuff. So I made a special backplate, for example, for this machine. I made couples multi-fix holders that I made during COVID-19. You know, all this stuff. And this is the stock one, so a little bit larger, and but overall fits really good. It's really good, the tool post. And this is one of the shop projects I did in the past. Every machinist like to run a very nice smooth lathe, and I'm probably one of those with this machine because it's a really nice one. It's a Ramo, made in France in 1964. They produced this machine from the early 50s to the early 80s, mainly for a small work environment and 2 rooms and school. And this one was in school. I never see a production life. The bed is really good. All the casting, as you can see, is pretty thick. The tailstock is a number 4. The capabilities of this machine is 360 millimeters in diameter over the bed and 500 millimeters over the centers. And it's basically a 14 by 20 inch machine for the Imperial guys. And I fitted a 6 jaw chuck recently with a set through back plate. I've got this this multi-fix tool post with different holders. It's a very nice one. Equipped with a DRO, you can produce, you know, 5-10 parts very quickly on this machine. You have tripping dogs for the longitudinal travel, so you knock off the feeds when the length is achieved. And of course, we have chips in it because I use a lot this machine. I can thread metric as well as English thread. I can thread any thread I want because I've got a set of change gear. I made a couple extra gears to fit my needs, and you know, especially to make back plate, because this spindle is a 6 threads per inch spindle, long spindle nose. And I made my own backplate every time I need a new chuck or a new equipment on this machine. The dials are really convenient to use, even though I've got the GRO now, but it's very convenient to use in 100 of millimeter. And you have a travel dial for the length. Another shop project I done in the past, it's a steady rest, a 3-point steady rest for this machine. I've made it from steel, and it's a nice addition to any lathe, because you can you have the possibility to run the shaft between 2 points, and to run 2 concentric centers on a shaft. So it's really nice to have this steady rest. So down here I fitted a small compartment to organize the tailstock accessories with drill chuck, centers, ribometric die head, and a tapping head. And I've got other taper reduction when I do drilling, for example. I've always wanted to have a quick change tool holder for the tailstock of a lathe. So this type of tooling is pretty expensive and rare, so I can't afford one or find one. So I started to look at possibilities, and I design and machine this one. It's made out of 35 Rockwell steel, so it's pretty tough to machine, but the result is pretty good. And so you can swap between drilling and tapping. So how does it works? It's pretty simple. You have a series of teeth inside here, and you can barely see it, but you have a series of teeth, and these teeth act like a clutch, and when you tap reach the bottom head of a hole, these teeth try to slip on this groove, and you know, you can't go further and avoid to breaking your type. So this head has a variable adjustment, so with, you know, more tension or less tension depending of the tap you run with. And you have the quick change action with this ring, and it releases 2 balls in the bottom, you can find. So it has 2 10mm ball bearings, and it releases the tool to change from drilling to tapping or chamfering or anything you want. I run this machine out of a VFD because I don't have 3-phase power here, and 3-phase power in France is very expensive, and I don't want to pay for that service for 2 weeks, 2 days a week. So that's why I fitted my machine with a VFD, and I don't have any issue with torque or something like that, or overheating the motor. So it works great for me. After the lathe, of course, we've got the milling machine. So this one, it's called a 2-room type milling machine. It's made by Chaublin in 1970. So it's a very good machine to me. It's very small because I've always had the limitation of my front door, so I can't put a bigger machine than that. This one weighs around 700 kilograms, so it's a not very heavy, but it's an heavy machine. You can dig through material with a face mill like that, like this one, without any problems. And as you can see, I've got chip on the table because I've worked on it quite oftenly. It's a very nice machine, and it's still very accurate for what I do. I don't have any major issue with accuracy, even though it has a little bit of wear, especially on the Z-axis. But this machine has a good life because it was in a research department of a French company that produce optical stuff for military equipment. So all the type of night vision, this kind of stuff. Anyway, so the machine is really good to me. It's an ISO 30 taper. It's very common here, not as common probably as the R8 in the US, but it's a very common one. The most common one in France is of course the ISO 40, but the ISO 30 is quite common. So, and of course it's kind of small, so you can make your own orders, and I did that in the past. This is the blank type machine in the CNC lathe, and it is really easy, especially when you have I've got at the time the bar feeder, so I can bar feed this thing, and very easy to make. And after that, I made the slots for the dogs, and I can machine everything I want on the other hand. So very easy to make. Of course. Professional shop don't do that because it's very cheap. This type of taper is very cheap. But me at the time, I was on the money, so I try to make everything on my own, and I still do that in some cases. This machine has two axes with power feed, the X and the Z, and you also have rapid traverse on these axes, and it is really useful to have that, especially with the Z when you need to change your tools. It's very nice to have that, but this kind of rapid traverse feature try to wear out your ways, so be careful to put a lot of oil in on your ways when you have this type of feature. This project is worth to be mentioned. I think it's a slotting head that I made for this milling machine, and everything on it I made on this mill. So it's a nice project. It was pretty I learned a lot with that. The stroke is adjustable. You can slot up to 8 millimeters in steel without any problem. I think you can go a little bit bigger, but I don't dare to do it. And it's a nice feature to have on a milling machine. So it's a nice project. I learned a lot on that, and I think it's worth mentioning. So this is the main toolboxes. I keep mostly machining tools in here, and I've got on the top of it a lot of crap and things I'm working on, and ND type size, all the metric, and measuring tools. In the first door you have all the measuring tools, and all the things that you need to run the machine. I've got the chucks down here. This is, for example, the door for running the lathe, or all the collets for running the mill. So it's nice to have everything on hand. I don't have a lot of organization here, but I try to be organized in most of case for machining. Last year I've bought this D-bit grinder. It's a Deckel, made in Germany. It's a well-known brand for doing lot of high precision mold making equipment in machining. And this one, it's a very good unit, in great shape. I'm glad I found a nice tool and cutter grinder for my shop, and it's a nice introduction to that, because I never experienced this type of machine before. I've experienced you know, your traditional tool and cutter grinder, like a Cincinnati number 1 or 2, I can remember. And but this type of, I never used this type of grinder before before this one. So it's a nice unit. I made a couple wheel hubs for it, and made this in 35 Rockwell steel. It's a collet chuck. I made it on the Ramo, and overall a very good unit, and all the axes is very smooth to operate. The spindle is doesn't produce a lot of noise, and I've got the original light for it, so it doesn't. This is not the most powerful light I've saw, but you know, it do the job for what I do here. This is a couple of the wheel hubs I made for the decal out of this heat treated 35 Rockwell steel. And you know, I made several of these so I can mount different wheels, and different type of materials, and different wheel shapes. Here I've got a small granite surface plate, and you know, always nice to have a nice flat reference. And I've got a couple of things with it. I've got a current project I will show you, and I've got this this cast iron cross slide that I found somewhere, I can remember, and I used to, for my height gauge, to lay out a part, and with that I avoid to wear out the granite surface plate for doing layout. And doing layout is not to be as accurate as like you do scraping or precision measuring. This is, for example, 2 projects I've done in the past for the surface plate. It's a mounting block made of a drop of steel. It is heat treated, and as you can see, it has a couple of problems. It's shop made, and it's a learning exercise at the time for me. And you know, it's I'm really happy how it turned out, especially with the surface grinding. So for me, it was a really nice project. I've done that at my first work. And this is the cylindrical square I made here. It's 250 millimeter in height. I can remember actually. So yeah, it's a 250 millimeter cylindrical square. It's made out of 35 Rockwell steel, and I turned and I ground on the Ramo with a tool post grinder, and the finish came out great. And it is the squareness error on this is less than 5 micron. This is the project I talked about earlier. It's a 2-cylinder steam/air engine. It's made of out of bar stock. It's not a kit. I've got drawings, but it's not a kit, and it's pretty high. I can measure that for you, but the crankshaft is 2 millimeter 240 millimeter long, and the height is a little bit more than 200 millimeters. And it's really nice to work on this type of project. And you know, I try to use all the skill I've learned in the past in this type of project. So you know, it's not serving the shop or something like that, but it's a nice learning project. And when I have you know, spare time or free time, I try to work on that couple of hours a week. This is the end of this workshop tour. I hope you enjoy. Thanks to Practical Machinist to give me this chance. And it was pretty difficult experience for me to be in front of a camera and speaking with foreign language. But I think it was pretty good. Everybody understand the machinist language. And I hope you enjoy, and see you later on Instagram or YouTube. So thanks everybody.